Hey, thanks so much for joining us for this informative session where we're going to be exploring the question, is it wrong for religions to be exclusive? Now, this is a really important question to consider because at the heart of the Christian faith is the claim that Jesus Christ is the center of not just history, but should be the center of our faith. And if that's true, then it suggests that um, like if Christianity is true, that means the central claims of other religions of the world would not be true. Not all the claims, but the central claims. And that's a big deal because I think all of us have this impulse that like, I don't want to say that everyone else is wrong. Like that feels wrong to do. It feels wrong to be so exclusive. And I totally get that. And it's a big deal. And that's why we're going to be exploring it in this session. So thank you so much for tuning in, whoever you are, whether you're a Christian and you just want to be equipped on how to answer this question yourself or others, or if you're seeking and you're trying to explore Christianity and what Christians believe and you have questions, either way, wherever you are in your walk with Jesus, I am so glad you're engaging with this content, and I hope this is helpful for you. We have a number of questions we address here, as well as kind of making a positive case for what Christians do believe. So I encourage you to check that out as well. And then finally, if you don't find the answer to the question you have, it's not the end of the story or the end of our journey together. There's a button on the website here where you can click to submit your own question if it's not addressed here. And I would love to do my best to help you answer the questions you have. So here's the plan for this session. We're going to talk about doubts and faiths. All right. In order to get to this question of is it wrong for religions to be exclusive, we need to understand what religions are, or faith traditions. And the word faith brings up the concept of doubt. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about doubt. And if you get that wrong, it's hard to actually even get this conversation off the ground to begin with. And so that's where we're going to start with an exploration of what is doubt and how do doubt and faith go together. And that'll give us the foundation to explore this important question. So what is doubt? To get at this, I want to share a story from our family. So Janelle and I, we have 4 children, and our second oldest is Anne Marie, or we call her Anna. And Anna went through a phase a couple years ago where she was struggling with dishonesty. She was lying a lot, actually. And for some reason, the biggest struggle with this lying was related to eating her little children's vitamin in the morning. For whatever reason, Anna could not stand her children's vitamins. She would hide them. She would chew them halfway and spit them out in the trash like it was crazy. And so we had a simple policy in our house. It was, we have to watch you eat your vitamin because we don't trust that you're actually going to eat it. And then if it just disappears, we don't know what you did with it. And because you've been lying about other things, we don't trust that you're going to tell us the truth necessarily. And so that was kind of our policy at the time. And so one Sunday morning, Janelle's trying to get all the kids ready for church and eating breakfast. And I have to get to church early to set other things up. So I'm already gone. And so Janelle's trying to get all the kids ready. And she comes into the dining room and Anna's there and her vitamins are gone. And this starts the conflict and the investigation, right? Janelle says, what did you do with your vitamins? She's like, oh, I ate it. Eventually she admits she didn't eat it. She hid it under the piano. And under our piano is one of the registers for our HVAC, our heating system in her house. And she threw it in one of those vents. So Janelle now has to pause all her other stuff, pushes the piano on the way. Thankfully, it's on rollers. Pulls off the register. It's like, Anna, you need to reach in there and get your vitamins. And you still have to eat them. And then pause. Then another kid calls for Janelle's help. And so she has to go help them. And she comes back, and there's Anna, and the vitamins are gone. Anna, what'd you do? She's like, oh, I ate them. And this ensues another long discussion of fighting about it and going back and forth. And it's interesting because Anna was so adamant that she actually ate her vitamins this time that Janelle began to doubt her idea that, no, you didn't. And I know you didn't because you wouldn't do that without me watching you. Long story short, it isn't until all the way after church, we get home for lunch, and Anna apologizes to Janelle and says, I'm sorry, I lied to you. And what had happened is she reached in the vent, she got her vitamins, pulled them out, and then threw them further down the vent. Oh man, such a ridiculous story. What does that have to do with what we're talking about? Actually, it's a great illustration of the dynamics of faith and doubt. And again, that provides the foundation of what we're going to be talking about today. What is doubt? At its most basic, doubt is simply the feeling of uncertainty or a lack of conviction. Now, this is important because you see in this definition itself that doubt is not necessarily related to truth. Here's what I mean. You can have doubt about something that's true. Janelle began to doubt that she was correct about Anna eating her vitamin because Anna was so adamant. She had a feeling of doubt, a feeling of uncertainty about that, even though it ended up being true. Right? So the presence of doubt does not actually determine what is or isn't true. You can have lots of doubts about something that is actually true, or what's even weirder is you can have no doubts at all about something that's not true. But doubt is that feeling of uncertainty, that kind of questioning aspect, okay? Here's the second thing about doubt, is that doubt is not the opposite of faith. It is an essential component of it. See, a lot of people say doubt and faith are natural opposites. Like if you have doubt, then you don't have faith. But that's actually not true. Faith and doubt actually go together. Let me give you just a basic illustration, and this is kind of something I heard from a pastor named John Ortberg. So off screen, you can't see it. I'm going to make a claim, and I want you to consider whether or not you believe me, whether or not you have faith, okay? Off camera, you can't see it. I have a soda here in this room. I'm drinking a cup of soda. Do you believe me? I mean, consider it. It's a claim, and you have to consider whether or not you believe me or not. Right? I don't know if you believe me or not. In this case, if you said, yes, I believe you, you are right. Here's my soda I'm drinking. Oh, yeah. Now, whether you realize or not, what just happened when I pulled the soda into view is I destroyed your faith. Why? Because now, not only is there no doubt, but there is no more faith. Right? The opposite of faith is not actually doubt. The opposite of faith is knowledge. If I make a claim that you have to trust, you have to go on faith with, right? I have a soda that you cannot see. You have to choose whether or not you believe me. But once you see that I do have a soda, now you don't have to believe because you know. And so this is an important point because this tells us that doubt is going to be present whenever knowledge isn't complete. Doubt is just a necessary aspect of our lives and the world we live in as long as our knowledge is not 100% complete. And so again, the presence of doubt does not mean faith can't be there. In fact, faith and doubt go together. And here's the final thing about doubts. And this is that doubts are an indicator of alternate beliefs. Right? Again, going back to that opening example, Janelle doubted that Anna was being honest because she believed and she had evidence for Anna not being honest. And this happens all the time, right? Whenever you doubt something, it's actually because you have an alternate belief of some kind. So, you know, if you're watching TV and an ad comes on for whatever politician is running for whatever office, and say, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z and, you know, make our world such a better place. And if you are like me, you may tend to doubt the truthfulness of some of those commercials, right? Now, why do you doubt that? Because you believe something else. In this case, maybe you believe that politicians will say whatever they need to say to get elected, or that politicians have great intentions, but those don't always follow through with actions. But you have some kind of alternate belief that's causing you to doubt the other belief. And so there's all these kind of beliefs and faith claims out there that are drifting around, and many of them, most of us doubt. We don't believe are true, but the reason we don't believe they're true is because we believe something else is true. And the reason this is so important is because if you're watching this and at this point you don't believe Christianity is true, you doubt it, it's because you have alternate beliefs. You doubt it for reasons. And whatever reasons those are, one, you should know what those are. And to be intellectually honest, here's what you should do. Okay? I doubt Christianity, for example, because I believe that if there really was a good God, he wouldn't let bad things happen. That's actually called the problem of evil. And we'll do another video session on that topic itself. Or you might say, I doubt Christianity is true because I believe that science disproves faith. That faith and science don't go together, and I think science is true, and therefore Christianity can't be true. That's an alternate belief, right? I believe science is true, and therefore Christianity can't be true. That is a faith claim that you believe, and therefore causing you to doubt an alternate claim. Or you might say, and this gets us to what we're talking about today, I don't believe Christianity is true because I believe it's wrong for any religion to be exclusive, and Christianity is exclusive. Therefore, it must be wrong. Now, again, to be intellectually honest, what you need to do is examine what are your alternative beliefs, and then what is the evidence for them? Is there a good foundation for those beliefs or not? What is your evidence for your alternate beliefs to Christianity? And so what I want to do in the remainder of our time is examine the evidence or lack of it for the belief that it is wrong for religions to be exclusive. Now, there's a lot of kind of different names this goes by. Kind of the way people talk about it is like, everyone's right? Everyone has a piece of the truth, or whatever works for you, or, that's your truth, but that's not my truth. One way to get at this idea, in technical terms, it's called religious pluralism. Pluralism just means, more than one. More than one religion is right, and maybe even all of them are right. That's the technical term for this. And the story I've heard used to illustrate it, and maybe you have too, is the story of the blind man and the elephant. And the pretend story is that there's a bunch of blind people, and they're feeling different parts of an elephant and describing it to each other. So, one person's feeling the tail, and they're like, an elephant, whatever it is, it's like a rope. And someone else is feeling the tusk of the elephant, and they're like, no, 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 no. An elephant is nothing like a rope. It's more like a spear. It's rigid and hard and tough. And someone else is feeling the elephant's trunk, and they're like, no, an elephant's more like a snake. Someone else is feeling one of the elephant's big legs. Like, no, 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 an elephant's like a trunk of a tree. What are you guys talking about? And the point is, all these people are feeling an elephant. They just have small pieces of the truth, and they don't realize that there's a bigger whole that they can't see. And this is used sometimes to talk about the various religions of the world and this idea of religious pluralism. And so if this view is right, then it would say, hey, all you Christians, you have a piece of the truth, but not the whole truth. And all you Muslims, you have a piece of the truth, but not the whole truth, etc., etc. And all the different various religions have aspects of the truth, but not the whole truth. And when you back up, and if you could see the whole picture, you would realize you actually all really agree with each other, and we're all right. And there's something about this view that I'm going to admit I'm very drawn to personally. When I was in college, I took a world religions class, and I loved getting to study the various world religions. We spent time digging into Buddhism and Sikhism and Islam and Taoism and so many others. And there were so many aspects of each of these that I really respected and came to admire. And for a time, I even kind of flirted myself with this idea of religious pluralism. Like, maybe they're all right. Like, who am I to say that they're wrong? Especially given the fact that had I grown up in that culture with parents who were like, say, Sikhs, I probably would be a Sikh as well. I probably wouldn't be a Christian. And I really wrestled with that question. And so I don't at all present this in like a arrogant, no, I know I'm right. I present this as someone who I understand why people would want to say, no, everyone's right. Because if you think about this statistically speaking, we're talking about a lot of people, right? Like 32% of the world identifies with Christianity, 25% with Islam, 15% with Hinduism, 7% with Buddhism. And we are talking not about millions of people, but billions of people. And if any one of these religions is right, and if that means the other religions are wrong, we're saying billions of people are wrong about what they believe. And that just feels like that's a big thing to say. And who am I to say that? And so again, I understand the draw of this view. But the more I've explored this, the more I've realized that there are some major problems with claiming that it's wrong for religions to be exclusive and that everyone's right and that there's just kind of, we all have aspects of the truth. And again, if this is your view, I don't mean any of this in an insulting way. These are probably just things you've never taken the time to consider before. And I want to encourage you to consider these things now. The first major problem with this idea is that none of the major religions of the world teach this. In fact, if you take the time to study the major religions of the world, you realize very quickly that they say incompatible things about very major issues. For example, Christians would say there's one God. The Hindus would say it's a polytheistic religion. There's thousands of gods. So they would say there's many gods. Buddhism is, in essence, an atheistic type of faith. It says there is no God. Is there one God, thousands of God, or no God? And the issue is those cannot all be true at the same time and in the same way. So I'm trying to think of an example of what this could be like. This would be like going back in time to the time of Galileo's scientific understanding that no, it's not that the sun and all the planets revolve around the earth, right? Geocentrism is wrong, is what he claimed. No, it's actually heliocentrism. The planet Earth revolves around the sun. And that was a big change in thinking in science at the time. Now, no one I know says, no, they're both right. The Earth revolves around the sun, and the sun revolves around the Earth at the same time and in the same way. Right? It doesn't work. They are mutually exclusive claims. And when you look at the major claims of the major world religions, you find lots of things like this. Not just the question of God, but what happens when you die, the nature of good and evil, whether there really is good and evil, and then what things fall into either of those categories, as well as the major question of what's wrong with this world? What's wrong with me? And how do we go about fixing that and addressing that? And the major world religions offer very different answers. I was reading a book by an atheist writer named Sam Harris. He wrote a book called Waking Up, and he was exploring the benefits of spirituality. So he, as an atheist, doesn't believe in God, but he does believe that there are benefits to spirituality, which is kind of interesting. And I thought this was fascinating. I mean, I disagree with him on a fundamental level about so many things, but I wanted to learn what he thinks about all this. And it's interesting, as I was reading through his book, I came across this quote where he expresses this idea. Even as an atheist who believes spirituality is good, this is what he has to say. He says, we're often encouraged to believe that all religions are the same. All teach the same ethical principles. All urge their followers to contemplate the same divine reality. All are equally wise, compassionate, and true within their sphere, or equally divisive and false depending on one's view. And he says this, no serious adherents of any faith can believe these things, because most religions make claims about reality that are mutually incompatible. It is impossible for any faith, no matter how elastic, to fully honor the truth claims of another. And again, even though I disagree with Sam Harris about so many things, I think he's spot on this point. It is just doesn't match up with what the major world religions teach. So that's the first major issue with this. In John 14:6, Jesus says, is recorded as saying, I am the way and the truth and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. That's what Jesus claimed according to the gospel writer John. Now, here's the thing. If religious pluralism is true, then one of the central claims of Christianity is actually wrong. And what's so ironic about this is that it's all meant from this place of saying, no, we're all right, and I don't want to be exclusive of any religion, but actually by doing that, you exclude them all. You're saying actually all of them are wrong. So that's why Paul Copan writes, though the Christian faith is a particular exclusivism, religious pluralism is a generic exclusivism. If the pluralist is correct, then the central doctrines of the world's greatest religions are false. Let's go back to this picture of the blind men and the elephant. Because again, the picture is, right, let's say Christians, you're holding the tail of the elephant. You Muslims, you have the tusk. And you Buddhists, you have the trunk of the elephant, etc., etc. Who can see in this picture? It's the religious pluralist. It's the person who says, no, you all have a piece of the truth, but you're blind. To say that every major world religion has a piece of the truth but not the whole truth is actually a very arrogant claim. What you're saying is, hey, you Christians, you're blind. You Buddhists, you're blind too. You Hindus, you're blind as well. I, and people like me, we can see. And we can see that you just have a little piece of the truth. You don't have the whole picture, but I do. I have the whole picture. And actually, disturbingly, it's a very arrogant claim and actually an exclusive claim. But it all comes down to this. What kind of a thing is religion? Greg Koukl writes this. He says, there is a difference between ice cream and insulin. When choosing ice cream, you can choose what you like. When choosing medicine, you must choose what heals. When choosing ice cream, you can choose what's true for you. When choosing medicine, you must choose what is true. There is significant confusion on this point. Americans tend to think of God, religion, and morals like ice cream and not like insulin. They choose religious views according to tastes, according to what they prefer, rather than according to what is true. Non-believers view religion like ice cream, and remarkably, Christians often do the same thing. But in Luke chapter 6, Jesus said, I've not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. And it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. In other words, when Jesus came, he said, you all are sick, and I'm come to treat that sickness. That what his body of teaching and all the things that are included in that and who he was is like medicine. And if you take the wrong medicine, you're not going to get the healing you need. And so at the end of the day, I don't think it's really about, well, that's true for you, but not true for me. That's not really intellectually honest. It's true or it's not true. And I think there's good reasons to believe it's true. And I hope I've given you some food for thought if this is a view that you've had or kind of been settling in your mind. And again, we have other resources here to continue this discussion. But I want to encourage you to consider if what we need is not ice cream, but medicine, not just something a matter of taste and preference, but something to heal us. And there's a lot at stake in this discussion, and it's worth digging into. So good job doing that so far. And I just want to encourage you to keep going, keep searching for truth. Because again, what did Jesus say? I am the way and the truth and the life. He said he's the truth, which means if Jesus was right, that he really was the truth, that all of us, no matter what culture or religion we come from, can search for truth. And the closer we get to the truth, the closer we'll get to Jesus. And so keep searching.